Hi, my name is Jennifer Jason. The 1905 Santa Fe Harvey Company Hop-Eye House, a leaf, so I hope I'm saying that correctly, employs the aesthetic conventions of the noble savage and the myth of the vanishing Indian to present indigenous peoples as a timeless kind of idea, producing authentic materials of art. Whose culture exists for the consumption of the tourists. According to Mark Newman, tourism does not simply show us places and people, but shapes how these visitors understand them. The Hop-Eye House leaflet does this by constructing indigenous cultures as an attraction for tourists traveling to the Grand Canyon. The first aesthetic convention that I saw would be like the Noble Savage, which idealizes indigenous peoples as living in harmony with nature and preserving traditional ways of life. Dr. Callahan explains in the Architecture and Material Arts to the Grand Canyon lecture, material arts were particularly important to the tourism infrastructure of the Grand Canyon National Park, from the brooches and pamphlets distributed by the Santa Fe Railway to the Indian baskets, rugs, jewelry, and sold as souvenirs in the Hop-Eye House. Rather than presenting these different works as living, evolving culture and like the tools they needed to survive, it shows them as authentic souvenirs for visitors. And this kind of description and language shows that it's turning the Hop-Eye craftsmanship into just a tourist commodity. Another example of a convention would be the Myth of the Vanishing Indian, which is kind of like on the same idea, but they're both kind of different. And this one, the Vanishing Indian, which portrays indigenous people as a race destined to disappear. Dr. Callahan states in the Napeo and the Art of the Indian Souvenirs lecture, the Myth of the Vanishing Indian, which was the romantic aesthetic convention of nostalgia for the inevitable passing of the Indian race, spurred a movement of artists, collectors, and anthropologists to acquire the document the works. By prompting the Hop-Eye House as a place to witness these indigenous traditions and purchase all their crafts, it's reinforcing the narrative and idea to encourage these tourists to collect all these different materials of a supposedly disappearing culture. So together, these conventions make indigenous peoples defined by their value of seen through the tourists rather than as contemporary in their own evolving separate community.